There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. In case you don't know me, my name is Adrian Felix. I serve as the secretary of the county party, but I am also the president of the Denver Young Dems, and I am hosting this caucus training. I'm super excited. I enjoy caucus. It's kind of one of my first memories of politics because it really gets you started into the party in terms of like a precinct organizer and then going all the way up to state assembly. And to me, it's always been about community, right? It's your chance to finally like get in touch with people that have similar backgrounds to you who are in your neighborhood, and you're going to work together to hopefully make the next 2 years a success in your community in terms of our politics and our democratic values. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Can you all see that?
Yeah, looks great over here.
Thank you. Okay. So again, this is our caucus training. Mark and James asked me to do this. Well, I kind of volunteered because I wanted the Young Dems to kind of get the chance to get to know you guys and train you through this. So first things first, Zoom etiquette. I have Leah muting people in case that your microphone does come on, but please keep it muted. Use the raise hand feature to ask any questions. That said, let me pull the chat. I will be answering questions that I see in the chat. So if you need an immediate answer, feel free to do so. But if you can wait till the end to ask questions or give comments, that would certainly be appreciated as well. But I'm keeping tabs of the chat. Okay, so caucus. The first things first is you need to know your precinct. Those have changed with redistricting. Some of us have moved into different House districts. For instance, I was in 5. Through the redistricting process, I have been moved to 8. I believe I am now precinct 812. You need to know this information because that'll help you know where you need to go in terms of the location of your caucus. And I see a question in the chat. Can unaffiliated voters participate in the caucus or only registered Democrats? The answer to this is that only registered Democrats can partake in the democratic process, because this really is about our party and electing people to like represent us on a local level to some extent. But yeah, unaffiliated people are not allowed to participate. With that said, unaffiliated voters are allowed to participate in at least the primary by requesting a ballot, a Democrat or Republican ballot. But back to the caucus location. So I tried to make this as easy as possible. You can either visit the website to find your precinct. We do have a precinct finder, or you can scan this QR code, which will take you to our precinct finder. And that information will let you know what's your precinct and what your caucus location is. If you need any help with that, feel free to reach out to me or James. Yous can attend the meeting, as in this meeting. I mean, if they'd like to learn, but they're not going to be able to participate. Is DPoD assembly virtual or in person? From my understanding at this point, we are shooting for an in-person assembly. But obviously with COVID being a variable, that could change. That said, the numbers are way down. I don't know if you guys have seen like the latest swoop, but it's kind of crashed. And not to say that the pandemic is over. I still would say that you need to be vaccinated or be masked. But for right now, assembly is going to be in person. So the 5 facets of a successful caucus. So again, you're going to go to your location and you kind of have things that you need to accomplish in your precinct. The first one is to pass the buck bag. And I kind of laughed when I saw this presentation that it's first, because it is, to me, the most difficult part is to ask people for their money. It's especially after a pandemic. But with that said, I can't stress enough the importance of your donations or soliciting donations for the plans that we have in order to make this election a success. The pendulum swings and I'm a little worried for Democrats. That said, we are safe in Denver, but the work that we do here can impact the entire state. And to be quite honest, I would prefer that we keep every single statewide position that we have, because they're practically all up. So soliciting donations, that money goes to obviously party functions, but as well as our grassroots organizations in terms of mailers and how we do that type of outreach so that we get our voters to know what their ballot should hopefully look like. come November. My address isn't found. Is that because I'm in Centennial? That may be because I believe our maps are for Denver only. James, can you comment on that at all? I believe it's only Denver.
Yeah, we only imported the data that we got from Denver Elections Division into the Precinct Finder tool.
Okay, I see a question from Sandy about who supplies the buck bag. So in your precinct packet, which every precinct will get, you'll have donation envelopes. And I would, and I'm sure our treasurer Claudia is going to appreciate this, that we'll give you the envelopes, even if it's a small money donation, like a couple of dollars, please include your basic information like name, address, phone, email, and employer, so that everything's correct on our end. With that said, we're also including a QR code to our donation page, to make it easier in case you don't have enough envelopes or things of that nature. But those will be included with your packet. Okay, so the second thing is to elect 2 precinct organizers. So this email kind of really went out to all of our current POs. So with this caucus process, you've kind of, at least most of us, have already been through this process. During our last caucus, you're the ones that raised your hand and said, I would like to do this position. So you already know that we're electing 2 per precinct. We want to fill as many slots as we can, because again, these people are the ones who are going to be organizing in their communities and their neighborhoods to make sure that we get every vote that we can so that this election is a success. That said, it is a 2-year commitment, but we really have to partake because, obviously so much is at stake. Mike is asking, is there a way to donate without cash? Absolutely. So those BREs do include information for your card. You can also bring a check. That's totally fine. Again, we would just ask that you provide the correct information so that we are able to process that correctly. And Jacob was right. There are also donation links for each HD webpage. Claudia, no Bitcoin, please. Well, that may change soon, I'm sure. Okay. The next thing, number 3, is that we're going to elect delegates to county assembly. Susan Rogers, who is our rules chair, kind of went through the process in terms of allocating how many delegates each precinct will receive. Is Susan on? I don't know. I haven't seen her. Maybe not. I'm assuming not, because I was hoping maybe she could speak more towards what the process was. With that said, your precinct, when you go through the packet, that number of delegates that you were able to elect to county assembly will be in your packet. And again, the county assembly will be held on Saturday, March 19th. I gave Mark, our chair, a call earlier today to see if we had figured out a time yet. We don't know exactly what time. I think he was saying he was shooting for 11 a.m. But the information that we do know is that it will be at South High School on Saturday, March 19th. And then Cecilia, note that James has created special QR codes for caucus. Yes, those will be included in the packets. Number 4, accurately complete delegate election and fill out forms properly. This goes without saying, as you go through the process, you will elect a secretary. Try to find someone that has neat handwriting so that we can get that information and are able to understand like what's written down. It's kind of funny because I want to say last time I served as caucus secretary, and I found that surprising because I have awful handwriting. I just did my best to make it legible so that when we return that information back, people are able to read it. Let's see. Emily Hiltz, do all counties receive these packets at their county caucus? So here's the thing with that. Some counties have decided to go through a virtual process for their caucus. So in terms of what that looks like, I have no idea. I'm from Weld County. I was having a discussion with a former chair about how they were planning to go through that process. And it actually sounds somewhat complicated, but in person, every precinct will be given a packet. So again, it just depends on if they're doing it in person or they're doing it virtual, which it's kind of crazy. Will each caucus vote on planks in the draft platform? I will get to that question in a little bit because I do have some stuff in here about the platform. All right, that's actually number 5. Okay, so there is a URL that was created. by the platform team, including the chair, Cecilia Espinoza. So what they are currently doing is they have drafted a platform, but they are still seeking commentary on the platform or any additional information that you would like to add to it or you would like to see. When we get later through the presentation, you'll see that we did include a QR code so that you can go ahead and take a look now, submit your comments, or just get a peek so that you know what to expect on caucus. I don't think there's necessarily time reserved for debating that during caucus, though we do have 2 hours. So maybe if you guys finish your precinct kind of early, you can have that discussion. But from my understanding, they're really looking for commentary through their online link in order to see what the platform should be. Okay, major changes. So the last time we did this was in 2020. I was living in HD4. I was actually a site coordinator with Cecilia Espinoza. And the process is quite simple, but some things have changed over the last 2 years. This specific caucus, we are not doing any preference polls for candidates. So before, what would happen is you guys would do a preference poll. They would do some math to determine what candidates receive so many amount of delegates to go to the next part, which would be assembly. In this case, we're not doing that. That said, what I would advise at least is a straw poll, is to kind of get a feel of how these people that you're electing to be delegates in terms of the candidates that they support. Now, obviously, not every single race is contested. Some House races are contested, some are not. But that may be information that you want to get for down the line. I want to say Senator Bennett has now another opponent that entered, I think, a couple of days ago. But I know that some have primaries and obviously some do not, but it's a good idea to get that information as you're going through the process. Another thing is that 16 and 17-year-olds who are pre-registered to vote can attend and run as a precinct organizer. Obviously, as the president of the Young Dems, I think this is fantastic because it's a way to get young people involved in the process so that they can learn grassroots organization, which is, to me, democratic values. It's the way that we make a difference in our communities, is knowing our communities and having these discussions. So I definitely love that. And then lastly, that we are requiring masks at caucus. I just think that it's important that in person that we do what we can to keep people safe. So I'm super happy that we made this decision. I know that in my House District 8 and the site that I am at, which is Manual, that we are actually bringing masks just in case. I don't think that we're going to have a big problems because we are Democrats and we are the party of science and caring about our community enough to do the bare minimum. So with that said, I don't think that's going to be an issue, but please keep in mind that we do require masks. Okay, dates of importance. So as you go through this process, there are dates that you're going to need to know if you decide to go from county to state. First being, again, the county assembly, and this shouldn't say convention. I'm sorry about that. It is not a convention. It's simply an assembly. Saturday, March 19th, 2022 at South High School. We haven't decided the time yet, as I mentioned earlier. CD1 is having their assembly on Tuesday, April 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. via Zoom. And then lastly, the state party will have their assembly via Zoom on April 9th. From my conversation with Mark this morning, I don't think they have a time assigned quite yet either. But obviously, if you go through this process and continue further on, we will get you that information as we get it. Why are preference polls no longer done at caucus? Asked Jackie. That's a good question. I kind of wish Susan or someone could explain this a little bit better because even I'm not quite sure, but it is being done at the county level. I don't know, James, can you speak to that at all? Do you know what's going on?
Well, I know there was a legislative change that allowed the state party to change that. I could be wrong about that, but I know ultimately it was a state party decision to move that to assembly.
A question in the chat: with Denver lifting the mask mandate, how are we notifying potential attendees? That's a good question. I believe that we've included it in our outreach efforts in terms of our flyers and stuff. And I think that we've been asking the House districts to let their people know that they need to be wearing masks. Again, I really don't see it being an issue because the only people who are participating are Democrats. And I think that if you're asked to slap one on, you're just going to do it. And I would hope that would be the case. Okay, so this is the road to state convention. Like I said, at caucus, you will do those 5 things. And then if you decide to be elected as a delegate, you will move on to what is county assembly. Now, that is where you might see that we're doing more of a preference poll in terms of supporting candidates. Again, some are contested and some aren't. Scott, I will get to your question in a little bit in terms of like what the difference between a straw poll and a preference poll is. Mainly, the main difference being that you don't record a straw poll. Let's see. What will the attendees at the county and state assemblies be voting on? Again, it's support of candidates, but from the county level, I believe it's also deciding on the platform. As that's when we will finalize and accept that, hopefully. Who is eligible for caucus? Okay, in order to be eligible to vote at caucus or to be elected as a delegate, you must have affiliated as a Democrat no later than February 7th. You have to be registered to vote in that precinct. And you have resided in the precinct for at least 22 days. Again, while unaffiliated voters may vote in the primary, they may not participate in caucus or be elected as a delegate. Okay. Exceptions to that deadline. 16 and 17-year-olds who are obviously pre-registered, there's no deadline for that. But also if you became a naturalized citizen between February 7th, 22 and caucus, we would allow them as well. Okay, the caucus check-in process. So as you now know your precinct and now know the location, you will go into the building and you will check in. Some of you probably already know your site coordinators and will be volunteers in terms of running the caucus site. What you'll do is there will be tables. You'll go to your precinct. You will sign in. And again, here is that QR code in case you are wanting to figure that information out now. With that said, there may be people who go to the site and not know that information. What we would recommend is maybe posting the QR code or just having volunteers to help people figure out where they are, because it will happen. People don't necessarily always know that information. So just be prepared for that. Help out your neighbor. That would be nice. Okay, this is what the sign-in sheet looks like. Oh, hold on, Chris Humphreys. Go ahead, Chris. Oh. Okay, I was waiting for Chris to unmute herself. Can DPoD provide hard copy maps? I'm not sure if that's something that they're deciding to include, or there will be a hard copy of each map at each location or caucus location. So thank you, James, for answering that. But this is what the signing sheet looks like. You'll find your name, you'll sign, you'll give your email. Please give that up-to-date information, and then you can check for volunteer for news. But again, do what you can to make sure that people write legibly so that we're able to collect that information. Persons not in attendance. So there may be a chance that someone wants to go through this process, but isn't able to attend caucus on Tuesday. There are things that they can do to still participate in some manner without having to be there. You can be considered to be a delegate by request made by writing to DPoD headquarters, saying that you would like to be considered as a delegate. But the caucus body must ultimately choose whether or not to consider those things. It's because like the moment you're in your precinct, you can say, I'm not going to consider that. I think that we should vote on the people that are here. But people are allowed to send that in just in case. Oh, Chris, do you have something to say now?
Yeah, I tried to look up my voting and it says because my precinct changed, I'm not a registered voter no more.
Oof, that is somewhat scary. Let me go ahead and get a hold of you after this meeting, and I'll do what I can to make sure that you have that information and that we're good.
Thank you.
Hashim is quick to point that the deadline has passed per that slide. That is true. With that said, you are able to bring, have your neighbor bring that letter to caucus in the event that you miss that deadline. Rules about photos and videos. Okay, so this is one of those things that we obviously don't want people taking pictures or taking videos of people's personal information. That said, you know, anyone who knows me knows I like a good selfie. I'll probably take a selfie when I'm at caucus. That's totally fine. We just need to make sure that we're not recording any types of information that they shouldn't be in terms of like private information. You just don't want that happening. I imagine that won't be necessarily that big of a problem. But we also don't want any of that information going out because it's the party's job in terms of Denver County Democrats to provide that information simultaneously. This is more just about like general rules and ethics. Could you discuss people present? I will get to that as well. Thank you. This is just general information about how you should behave yourself. We're not Republican hooligans. We know how to be able to have discussions and dialogues with our neighbor without being rude, I would hope. So I'm really not going to go in too much detail. I don't think this will be a problem, but just mind your manners. This is our community. Be kind, please. Okay, so before we begin caucus, I advise taking pictures of the classroom. And the reason why is because we have had problems in the past where people will move desks in order to accommodate for the room or erase things from the board. Moving desks is one thing, but don't like touch anything of the teachers. Don't be erasing anything from the boards. What we again recommend is taking pictures of the classroom so that you're able to get it back in the manner that which DPS gave us. It shouldn't be too difficult. I don't think it'll be that big of a problem, but just in case, just watch for that. Don't allow people to erase things from the boards. Okay, so now that we've laid a lot of the ground rules for what caucus is, let's actually begin the process of caucus. I gotta say though, I kind of found this funny when I use this picture because it looks like an AA meeting, which is kind of what caucus looks like. Okay, so we're off. Rules and agenda. So the rules and agenda will be included in your precinct packet. You do not have to read them out loud. You may though. It's not something you have to do, but if someone would prefer that you did read the rules, that's totally acceptable, but it's not required. The call to order. So usually what you would want is someone who is at this training to do that because you understand the process. You've been trained on the process. You're able to get us from point A to point B. Now, some precincts aren't going to have anyone show up. Some precincts are going to have a person show up who didn't attend this training. That's fine, but someone has to call the meeting to order. We would just prefer that that's the PO because they're the ones that have gone through the process. Again, that won't happen to everyone. Okay, the next part will be electing a caucus chair. So what you will do is someone will say, I would like to be chair. You may have two people. You will probably take a vote of hands to figure out who should be the chair. Obviously, what the ideal situation would be that the person who is chairing it is at least trained on what it is that they're doing. After you elect a chair, you will elect a caucus secretary. Again, try to find someone with legible handwriting, who's a good note taker to get all the information that's required in the packet so that we're not hunting anyone down for that information. And then the part of a secret ballot. I had to ask Susan what exactly this meant because I was like, and if we're not doing a preference poll, like why would we do a secret ballot? And Susan explained to me that in the event that we're voting on delegates or electing POs, sometimes people would rather do those votes privately because your friend may want to be elected as a delegate, but they're like super lazy and you don't want them to know that they're super lazy and you don't want them to participate. So they would see you vote. So some people would ask for a secret ballot and that's totally fine. You would simply write it down and then obviously count votes and not count any kind of hands or names. But that's what that refers to. And you don't have to go that route. I doubt that'll be a problem, but in the event that you would rather have a secret ballot, just ask for that. Okay, so again, the first thing on the agenda will be the buck bag. We kind of went through this in detail a little bit earlier, but again, that information will be included in your precinct packet. Again, that's BREs as well as QR code so that you can go online and donate if need be. Again, on our treasurer's behalf, I'm asking that you record as much as the information about where these donations are coming from. just to keep us, where we need to be legally and financially. Again, the QR code will be there. Oh, the last thing I'm going to comment on that is that at caucus and you donate generally, that money collected at caucus is split between the House district as well as the county party. I'm not quite sure. James, do we have the way that's split, like a number yet?
Yeah, so it's 25% goes to the House district and 75% goes to the county.
Okay.
So we will have we did set up special pay pages for this, and the QR codes that are included in the packet will take you to those special pages.
Okay. So that's the formula in terms of the split. So when you're making a donation at caucus, it is being split. Straw polls. Okay, so someone had asked earlier what the difference is in terms of a preference poll and a straw poll. A preference poll is recorded, and you need that information to be able to assign delegates. But again, that's not happening. So what we're recommending is a straw poll. It's a measure of support, obviously, for a candidate. This is going to be, I'm sure, very important in HD6, where there is a contested House race in our county. But straw polls are not recorded. It's really for you to get a sense of who you would rather support to represent your values as they go along the delegate process. But it's simply just not recorded, and that's what makes it a straw poll. Do we get to use real straws? No. I was like, that's just one more expense. Let's see. 636, 637 will need extra copies of rules. Okay, noted. What other races in CD1? Delegate has 2 opponents and Bennett has 1 contested. I don't believe any of the other statewide have contested races. I believe those are the only 2. Okay, the delegate selection process. So again, when you open the packet and you're going through the sheets, when you get to the delegate selection sheet, you will see a number on the top right that says how many delegates that you get. The thing is we encourage you to fill all of your delegates, because if you don't, your county loses voice at county assembly, right? So we really encourage you to at least get all of those names and delegate slots filled. And in particular, if you're worried about the dates of, county assembly, like, oh, I can't make it, we are allowing proxies. So again, it just gives you an opportunity to have your voice heard at county assembly, and we want you to participate in the process, even if you can't make it. So proxies are going to be allowed. Again, there's no automatic delegates. They all need to be elected. Please fill every slot that you can. The caucus secretary should record the names, phone, email of all delegates to assembly. Be sure to complete the DPoD caucus results sheet from the precinct packet. Again, find someone who can do that legibly. Do not use the result sheet provided by a candidate or other group. Again, we want to be able to provide that information all at once. I know that candidates are the type that they want to know where they're at. They want to know if they're being successful, and I certainly appreciate that tenacity, but please wait until the county party reveals those numbers. And then after you select your delegates, again, you will select 2 precinct organizers. Again, it's a 2-year term. Everything that you would do, can proxies be from anywhere in the House district? James, do you know about that one? I think they have to be from the same House district. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be. I'm sorry, I was answering a question in the chat about assembly delegates. What was the question you're asking?
Oh, the one Cecilia asked, can proxies be from anywhere?
Oh yeah, that's the question I was dealing with. They have to be from this.
Changed at all.
Yeah, they have to be from the same House district and Senate district, because at assembly we go to breakout sessions for each, and they need to be able to participate in both.
I see. And then Lauren asked how many delegates from each precinct. That number that your precinct gets will be on the top right of your packet. You will know then how many you're able to elect. Do elected proxies have to be from the same precinct? No, like what James just said, same House district, same Senate district. Is precinct organizer the new PCP? Yes, that was a change that we've made in the last year from precinct or PCP to precinct organizer. So that is correct. POs need not need to be present to be elected. Again, if they're indicated they were willing to serve and they are registered Democrats in that precinct, they can be elected. That's when you would give that letter saying, hey, I'd like to be able to participate. I just can't be there for caucus. Again, and we want that information to be as legible as possible. Where do we get packets? So your site coordinators will have everything in a big box, and they will have a packet for each precinct, and they will go through that process with you and get you your packets for your precinct. Impartiality for party leadership. So what this refers to is that in our state party rules, if you are taking party leadership, it is upon you to be as neutral as possible through some of these processes in terms of like sharing, just supporting candidates and never using your position within this party to promote one Democrat over another. That's a state party rule. Not that we've had a lot of issues with it, but it does happen from time to time. Again, and this is when you would, talking about your straw poll and saying you would support a candidate is totally the time to do that. That's fine. In what city is the state assembly? So from my understanding, it's virtual. Okay, party platform. Again, so the platform committee has put together something I think quite fantastic. They're still asking for comments. Here is the link to be able to do so. That is on our website. And there is a QR code as well, so that you can go ahead and take a look at that and provide your comments. I would do that now so that when you're at caucus and people ask about the process, you kind of already know what it looks like. I don't know, Cecilia, do you have anything to add to that? I'd be rude if I didn't ask. Oh, maybe she's not on. Okay, we'll move on. Oh, election judges. Okay. So another sheet that will be inside your packet will be asking for interest. Oh, you need to unmute me. Okay, hold on. Hey, Cecilia, can you raise your hand so that you're at the top of my list? Oh, there we go. Ask to unmute. Okay, go ahead, Cecilia.
Okay, I probably forgot what I was going to say after dealing with all that wonderful tech stuff. But I did just want to say that the platform committee has worked really hard to put forward a draft platform. We are asking people to make a formal written comment, and that way because we will only have 2 days to turn around the comments into the final draft, which will then be published to the assembly delegates on the Tuesday following the caucus, because we have to turn that in. And so we'll be gathering all the information that's been coming in already in comments, and our committee will be meeting on the Saturday following the caucus to discuss all of the comments that have come in and finalize the draft for submission to the assembly. And that's where the party platform will be adopted, or the county party platform will be adopted. So, and if you have any questions, you can drop a note in those comment forms, and we're happy to answer those out to anybody who's got questions. But those links are active now, and anybody can look at them, and just encourage everybody to go to the platform links and make comments. We think it's more, it will allow for better thoughts with regard to the platform, rather than throwing at everybody on the night of the caucus and then everybody trying to go through it. Given the short time frame that we have at caucus, we felt this would give a better opportunity for people to participate. So thanks.
Gail Bell says, is this the platform draft that was shared at Mini Reorg recently? I believe it is.
Yes, it is. And Gail, I just want to say Gail did an excellent job making her comments and also following the rules of keeping her comments within the 75 words that the committee is also doing. So yay, Gail, great job.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. Okay, back to election judges. So in your packet, you will have a sheet that is asking for election judges' interest. If you've never done this before, I would highly recommend it. I chose one hell of a year to be election judge. I chose 2016. And I signed up through caucus. I did the interest form. It's funny because I'm from Weld County, and I was living in Weld County at the time. I highly recommend it, because we need as many Democrats in that process, watching it with unaffiliated Republicans and people of other parties who also would like to be election judges, so that you kind of understand like the level of fairness. I think it's important that we have Democrats there, because I think that Republicans are going to be all over this, because their narrative is all elections are unfair when we lose. So I highly recommend it. You are compensated for your time, which is certainly appreciated. And if you want to get more information about that, that is what this QR code is for. So when I resend out this presentation, you can go ahead and look at that information to see if it's something you're interested in, and then you can sign up for that at Caucus. And then after you've done all of those things, you will adjourn the caucus. Again, this is not like rocket science. It should be a very simple from A to B in terms of what caucus is. It's all in your packet. We're all intelligent beings, so I think that we'll be fine. But once it's over, you will adjourn. Again, caucus will be from 7 to 9. We need to be out at 9 because we want to make sure that DPS doesn't get upset with us. And from the site coordinators need to collect all the packets, make sure that the information that they get is properly filled out, and then they will deliver it to our headquarters by 10. So that is the process of caucus. That is what my presentation was. So at this point, what I'm going to do is, if you had an unanswered question in the chat that I didn't quite see because there was a lot of commentary, feel free to use the raise hand function and get your hand raised, and we will try our best to answer your questions. First with Lyric. Hey, Lyric.
Hi there. You spoke on this topic, but I'm not sure if it was clarified sufficiently. 16 and 17-year-olds can participate in caucus.
Right.
Can they be elected as a delegate?
Yes.
At caucus? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Eileen is next. Hi, Eileen.
I have two questions.
Sure.
In the past, we've had a general meeting. People went into the big auditorium for a general meeting at the start, and then they broke into caucus. Is that being skipped?
From my understanding, I think so. I think it's you get signed in, and then you go to your precinct. I want to say that was the process 2 years ago. I don't, James, have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, but that was not necessarily the rule.
Okay,
Sometimes that
I
would
see.
happen.
It was a site thing that they decided to do.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And the second one is, I want to share this trick or whatever with everyone. The party needs money. The county party needs money. Our house districts needs money, and a great way to encourage people to give money in the buck bag is to yourself put in a nice larger donation at the start, because it in the past has been, you write it down on the outside of the envelope and just write it and put $20 or something like that, and people kind of look at it and go, oh, that's the going gift, not $1.
It's
Right.
just like priming the tip jar.
Right.
Yes.
It's getting the
Yes.
ball rolling, and I certainly appreciate
Yes,
that.
and I say it's successful because I was told we had one of the largest buck bags in the city. So I think that's why we were successful at it.
I like to hear that. Thank you. Okay, our next question is from Dave Gessner.
Hi. So back to your thing about, we have to be out of the schools by 9. So we should probably be wrapping up things by 8:30 or so to give us time to put the room back together and organize the paperwork and all that. Is that correct?
I would advise that. I don't think it's actually going to take that much time to get through the process, but I think I think that's ideal, so that it allows the site coordinators to collect everything they need, clean up, make sure we're good to go and out of there by 9. So I think that's a good idea, Dave.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Okay, next, Larry Gallegos. Hey, Larry.
Hi there. 2 questions.
Okay.
Can people who are not from a precinct chair that particular precinct, because we have some excess POs in some precincts and none in others?
That is a fantastic question. I'm not quite sure I know the answer to that. I want to say no, but I don't know. James, do you have an idea?
You stumped me there. I don't know. Maybe we gotta get that one to Susan and get back to you.
Well, it is weird because it's like, obviously the people in the precinct, you want to be voting members of that precinct. So I'm going to say no. With that said, let me ask Susan and I will get back to you on that. Great question. I definitely did not think about that. Okay, next, Kathleen.
Thank you. Two questions. The first one, can a precinct organizer be elected a delegate?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then the follow-up question, can the precinct organizer be both a delegate and a proxy?
So can you carry the proxy for somebody else? I'm going to say yes, but we should confirm that.
I feel like that is the case. That is a yes, but again, that's another one that we will ask Susan. Wait, Cecilia says, as long as they don't vote, I think it might be necessary in some HDs. In the past, we have had one person coordinate for 2 precincts. Oh, I think she was just referring to the caucus itself. But with that said, Kathleen, I will definitely ask Susan about that because that's another question I'm not quite sure. Brad, go ahead.
Yep, thanks. 2 questions. Sorry if you covered this and I missed it somehow.
No, that's fine.
Will there be a way for people to just donate online, though, in addition to the buck bag? Because that probably works better for a lot of people.
Again, a QR code will be included so that you could use your phone to do an online donation at the time.
Okay, thank you. And representatives of candidates like to come in and want to speak. And did I miss what's the protocol for?
No, that's a great question. And I think that this may have been a slide that I forgot to add. 2 things with that. There is to be no petition gathering at caucus. So if a candidate says, oh, I would like people to sign, we're not allowing that. In terms of candidates speaking, from my understanding, they are allowed to speak in their own precinct. But in terms of like their supporters speaking in their precincts, that's totally acceptable. But a candidate shouldn't be going from precinct to precinct. I hope that answers your question. Next, we will take Gloria. Hey, Gloria.
Hi, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was moved from HD 8 to HD 6. I was a PO in HD 8 in 842. Will I now be a PO in 613?
So that's the thing is you will go to your new precinct and then you will elect 2 new POs. So obviously if there's a PO position available, I would totally love to have you. But yeah, you will be going to your new precinct to get new organizers.
And they'll already have a PO.
Well, that's the thing is that you're electing a whole brand new slate of POs. So they may have one now, but after caucus, they may have a new one. They may not.
Okay, but we go to our new.
That's correct. You will be going to your new precinct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Beth Turner. Hey, Beth. Oh, you're on mute. Ask to unmute. Oh, there you wait. No. Okay, I'm going to try again, Beth. I'm asking to unmute. There should be a window that pops up that allows you to unmute. Oh, there you go. Got it.
Okay. At caucus 2 years ago, I was the orphan PCP for a precinct that I was not a member of. And so I came in and I could run caucus for that precinct, but I couldn't vote.
And I think that makes sense because it's like the voting members of that precinct are the people that live there, right? So I believe that,
right.
That's totally correct. But again,
there was no PCP for that precinct, so I got imported in.
Sally and in the chat says, remember each precinct only elects 2 POs, which is correct. Okay, I'm gonna take Stella. Hey, Stella, nice to see you.
Hey, so I'm not clear. What happened if nobody shows up for that precinct?
If no one shows up, I mean, then nothing happens. What can happen at a later point, though, is if someone does take interest in terms of wanting to participate as a precinct organizer, they can be appointed to that. But they would lose their delegates and no one would participate. And it does happen every time. We do have precincts that just don't have anyone show up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. We will take Christine Alonso. Hey, Christina, I've asked to mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's all good.
I tried to unmute and then I ended up leaving the meeting. I just have a question going back to candidates asking for their petition signed. Is that a past practice that is, had they done that in the past?
You know, I'm not
Like,
quite.
have they set a precedence is my question.
You know,
Have-
that's a good question. James, last time I want to say no. When I did this 2 years ago in Denver, I don't believe they accepted any type of petitioning.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I don't think that's,
Yeah, that I think that's something with precedent. They've never allowed that. Okay, we will go back to Larry real quick. What's going on, Larry?
Just
oh. Ah. Oh, it keeps muting you. That's unmute.
Okay,
There we
my
go.
only question is, will you please include a link to the recording of this in this chat?
So, absolutely. Well, I don't know. Am I able to do that right away, James, or is that something?
no, well, yeah, so you can't, yeah, it's a little circular. You have to let the meeting end and then we get the recording.
Okay.
But we can email it out.
Yes, we will email it to the entire central committee, and then we will ask the House districts to please share it. We will do what we can to make sure that people have both the slideshow as well as this presentation.
Excellent, thank you.
Definitely. Hey, Karen.
It's a beautiful.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering because I'm wondering if the candidates had requested to talk before the actual caucus, like in a central location, would that be allowed?
You know, I think this is again kind of comes to like if the site or coordinator has a pre-assembly like thing where they sit with their entire community before they break out into precincts. I imagine that would be okay. I don't know, James. I think that one's a little.
No, we're not officially organizing anything like that at the county level. What we're saying is that as soon as you register, you're going to be directed to your specific caucus room. So,
but with that said, if a candidate is there and you happen to catch them before you guys break out into your precincts, obviously have that discussion.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Maria, I will take your question next.
Hi, apologies if this was answered, but other than going to the assembly, what are some other duties of the delegate?
Really, it's just going through that process of voting on the platform. And then if you decide to go to the state level, nominating and supporting those candidates, and then whatever the state has on their agenda. But that is really it. The precinct organizer is really the one that's making the longer commitment in terms of the work.
yeah, if you're elected a county assembly, your work ends at the county assembly. You're just elected for that one meeting. But at that meeting, you will participate in a sort of the big group, and then you will go into breakouts for your Senate district and your House district, where you will nominate candidates for the ballot.
Okay, and back to Maria, Cecilia made a good point that every caucus site will have a table where candidates are able to share their literature. So thank you, Cecilia. We will take Jackie's question. Hey, Jackie. Oh, go ahead and get unmuted. There you go. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear?
I can now.
Okay. Earlier the question was raised about being a delegate and carrying proxies. You can be a delegate and carry proxies. There's a limited number. I don't recall, but I know you could have at least 2 proxies. So you might check about the number of proxies you
Right.
carry, but you can be a delegate and also carry proxies.
I think that's a question that when I ask Susan, I will include that in the email or create an extra slide in the presentation so that that gets answered. Because if you guys asked it, I'm sure other people have that same question. Thank you, Jackie.
I'll just say that sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds right. This is the way that I'll put it. Okay.
I've done it in the past.
Okay. All right. We will take Stuart's question next. Go ahead.
Adrian, has there been any outreach to the Democrats in the House districts?
So we have shared a lot of this information through Slack in terms of asking House districts to share that information. I know that the comms committee did create some flyers to be shared. I think maybe James can answer a little bit more in terms of what that outreach looked like.
Yeah, I mean, we have communicated this through Slack, and I think we did send an email out. I don't remember if we did or not. But anyway, we have disseminated a flyer to the executive committee members, that is to captains and co-captains, to disseminate to their PCPs. And so right now PCPs should be going through Van, building a list and reaching out to the Democrats in their precincts.
Sure, I will take CL's question next. What's going on? Oh, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
I had the same question about outreach. I mean, I know how to use Van, but is there a preferred or suggested list formula for who to reach out to? And I haven't received any flyer, and my precinct is largely inaccessible, high rises and condos, and has the central, has Denver Dem Party come up with any kind of strategy that I've seen in the past, but I haven't seen this round. And I'm not on Slack. Sorry, James. I know you want to, but and maybe I'll, now that you've said it, James, I'll look for it there too.
Yeah, we do. I do know that some POs in some of those more inaccessible precincts have sent out emails to at least those Democrats who have an email address in Van. I know that's not most, right? So,
that's right.
But there are some. So that is accessible.
Or text. What about texting?
Yeah, so we don't have a texting solution in place yet, which we are working on for the November election, but unfortunately it's not ready for caucus.
And how bad is I mean, how up to date is Van James with?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked. Question. Yeah, this is
because
we're so happy.
Just as of Friday, just as of Friday, the precincts were finally updated in Van.
Okay.
So this is fresh info that I'm really happy to disseminate. Yeah, as of Friday, the DNC completed its import from the voter file from the state of Colorado, and as of Friday, we have accurate districts. Some counties are having problems, but fortunately, it's not Denver County that's being affected here. So yeah, the data is pretty reliable.
So I should just generate a list of all registered Dems.
That'd probably be good. That'd be a great place to start. You might refine that if that's a big list, depending on what you can cover, right? But yeah, that definitely.
No, I'm not. It's going to be emails and.
Oh yeah, then for sure I would do that. Yeah, that'd be good for emails. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. We will take Steve's question next. Hey, Steve.
Okay, I've got two questions, or at least a comment. The first comment is, within the rules, caucuses, in my experience, can make a lot of decisions if they want to vote on it. So if you want to hear from somebody who's not allowed to participate formally, someone who wants to speak for a candidate, in the past, we've just said, is everyone okay with that? Take a vote if we need to, and either shut them up or let them talk,
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. And the other question I have is the process of choosing delegates. I mean, hopefully, we won't have a big contest, but if we have a large caucus, and maybe we do have a few, how much relay do we have in how we choose the delegates? Do we vote them one at a time, a big slate? Do we have to do proportionally, or can we say, sorry, winner take all, or how do we do that?
And again, I think this kind of gets to the point of what you had just said previously, that it's kind of up to you guys how you would want to do that. Like I said, if someone would rather a secret ballot in terms of how they would like to do that, that's acceptable. If you guys would rather just have a show of hands, that's fine. You may have a situation where you're given 3 delegates and you have 3 people, then you just accept it by acclamation, and that's who your delegates are. So it really is up to you guys.
Okay, so we just need to read the rules carefully, make sure we get outside the rules, and within that we can make a lot of decisions.
Yes, and again, the rules will be included in your precinct packet. So thank you. We will get to my good friend Jackie Shumway next. Hey, Jackie.
Hi, Adrian. How you doing?
Hi, doing good.
That is so nice to say I'm your good friend. Anyway, okay, I love to be your good friend. Listen, I was going to suggest, I've been just really concerned as well about getting the word out. Is there any way that we could generate, I'm thinking about how generate yard signs that we could get permission from DPS to place like right at the entrance. You know how we do it with the elections and where the VSPCs are? You know how we do that? Where we put vote and there's a thing, right? I'm wondering if, and they keep the same ones and use them every time, is what we do. They're pretty torn up at this point, but I can tell you what it is a brilliant thing because it gets people to think, oh, there's where the voting place is. And remember, it's happening. I know it's late this time, but we could probably generate some. I'd be willing to throw some money in and help do it if we just had somebody real quick. They don't take very long. People can do them pretty quick for you. Is it possible?
I'm not quite sure the answer to that because there is some legal things that we have to do. For instance, on every site, I want to say last week, Thursday, we had to have a sign at the main entranceway saying that this is a caucus location.
Right.
And this is the precincts that will be participating here. I'm not sure how they feel about signage more towards, I don't know, their driveways or around the block. I think that that's a fantastic question that I can ask Susan and Mark if I get the chance, but I'm not quite sure like what DPS would even allow.
Adrian, I'm thinking for the sake of, because I'm thinking what they've done, I bet you we could talk to clerk and recorder's office and say to them, I bet they would have been given instructions because remember they use some DPS schools for their sites, you know, like including East High and some others when the stuff's bigger. I'm thinking we could do, I mean, I'm just going to suggest in the future, and it would put, you know, can we do that? And maybe they'd say you can only do it 2 days before, but anything would at least get it in people's mind.
Right. And, you know, I think a good point too, is that I don't appreciate how the state party made the decision to allow counties to decide when their caucus is, because I think that it made things very messy. It's like the state can't help us in messaging caucus because everyone's caucus is at a different time.
Yep.
Date.
I totally agree with you.
I think that was kind of a major misstep. I think that, you know, they were probably thinking about COVID, which I understand, and they're going to want to be cautious and allow communities to decide what's best for them. But I think that this, it's kind of made a disorganization in terms like, when is my county doing it? Well, Denver's doing it this day. Am I doing it that day? I think that it created an outreach mess, to be quite honest with you.
We're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Last but not least, is there any way that they can do any kind of additional calling just out to, I mean, I know it feels so late, but we should have had something in order. And I know, guys, you've been scrambling this year, James, Mark, you, everybody. But is there any kind of way that we could generate a simple, easy thing of let's just get like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, you know, you're leaving it up to us to find what we want to do with Van. It would be really helpful if somebody was saying, here's your ones you need to contact.
Right.
Like a campaign manager would do.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. Let me reach out to Mark and, like you said, maybe Denver elections to answer your question as soon as possible. I will do what I can to get it done tomorrow.
Thank you.
Definitely. All right, Emily, I'll take your question next. Emily.
Hi, sorry.
Good.
I put it in the chat and I was trying to find it. Yeah, basically I was just wondering if the petition gathering is Denver County specific. Or like a state.
You know, when I think about my time to weld, I don't think that we allowed that either. I think that it is very much a state uniform thing. I could be wrong though.
At caucus. Okay, yeah, I just couldn't find it anywhere like on the state website, knowing if that's statewide as like a decision. I know you're Denver focused at this training. Yeah.
Again, let me go ahead and get a hold of Susan, and I will try to do what I can to get that information to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, Christina, once more.
Hi, I had the same question. I wanted to see that if that rule was specific to Denver County or the state as well, and if so, where in the rules
can we find that information? Right.
Listed? Yes.
Okay. Let me go ahead and get a hold of Susan to see why that is, and if she can give us a rule. I will do what I can to get you that information.
Thank you.
Petitioning countywide rule. Okay, Karen Zazzaretti.
Yes, hi. The other day, James demonstrated a way to select certain criteria in order to have a reasonably focused voting list.
Mm.
And I was wondering if he could just tell which ones he selected again, because I tried really hard to select them in Van, and I wasn't very successful. I ended up either with a huge list or a teeny tiny list.
Did you say that James did this during the
Yes,
Van training?
James
Okay.
did it.
Okay. James, I'll allow you to take that.
Yeah, I was having a hard time hearing that.
Yeah. She was asking about like the selections that she made to make a list that was like a good size, like able with emails and stuff like that. Like if you could find a way maybe to simplify that and give it to the House districts.
You're talking about a specific Van, creating a list in Van, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, Karen, we can take that offline. Maybe I can come up with something. We can send that out to the executive committee at least.
Okay, and then we could, if we got it, then we could send it out to all our PCTs, because we are all really struggling with it. We want to get people to come to caucus, you know.
Right.
Yeah, let's connect on this, and then maybe we can come up with something we can send out to all the executive committee members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take Abe. Hey, Abe.
Hey, Adrian, thanks. Great presentation so far. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
So in terms of, so I just went on Van actually just a few minutes ago, just to check it out. In terms, so I'm going to try to select my precinct. I'm not getting the, I'm in 619 now. I'm not finding that one. I'm only seeing precincts for 8 still, and I think one of 9. So I'm just wondering how do we fix that?
James,
we gotta,
I don't know.
Yeah, Abe, we probably need to update your permissions. This is a crazy task, having to do this with redistricting because everybody's shifted, right? Or a lot of people shifted. If anybody else is having issues accessing their respective precincts or districts, please let me know. Abe, I'll look at yours right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you, Abe. Okay, Roger. Hey, Roger.
By the way, you're doing a great job. I love this. And to have almost 200 people on here is very exciting.
Right.
So Adrian, thanks. My question is just to follow up with what Abe had to say. And that is, I was in 9 in precinct 960. Now I'm in 310,
right, which
is half of 3 is in Denver and half of it's in Arapahoe County. Is there a way that Van can be accessed? Is it going to be all Denver, or is it going to be half Denver and half? What about the other precincts in Arapahoe County? Do we have any access to those?
Right, and James, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, so Van access is granted by the state on a county committee level. It can also be granted to at the House district level. So if you're in a multi-county House district, you could have access to at least the portion of the House district in the other county. So anyway, Van access is kind of complicated, right? But generally it's given out at the county level. If you have a special use case, Roger, why don't you send me an email and I can follow up with you. But in most cases, it's county level access and then House district or Senate district access.
Well, James, that's a good answer. Just tell me again, since I may be a little bit dense. Has the 960 been put into 310? If I went into Van right now, would I be able to access the extra 25% that are in my precinct as a precinct organizer?
Yeah. So Roger, your precinct should. So every precinct is only within a certain county. So there is no such thing as a multi-county precinct. There are multi-county House districts and Senate districts, though. I would have to look at your specific use case, but if you have precinct access, it's going to be totally within Denver.
Okay, so the answer is yes, I can access a 310 in Denver through Van.
If that is your precinct, yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, Sandy, I'll take your question next. Hey.
Mine was a similar question. New House district, new precinct and all. I'm wondering if I could access Van with my old precinct and I'd get at least part of my new precinct. You know?
Oh, no, I mean, it's all based on new precincts.
Okay, so then I wouldn't have access yet
You would
unless I
not.
go through asking.
So whoever the PCPs are in your old precinct would be responsible for your old precinct at this point. And of course, all this is moot once we elect new PCPs at caucus, but for caucus prep, you would only have access to your current precinct.
Okay, I was an old precinct, an old PCP. I mean, I'm a leftover PCP from my old one, so I had it before, so.
Yeah, well, we all are leftover PCPs if you think about it.
So I'm
All
not
of us
sure
who
who
are
you're telling me I
PCPs.
should be asking for.
No, so we're in a weird state because I mean, there's some precincts that have 5. There's a few of them that have 5 PCPs in them right now, right? Because they were all elected. Right. Oh, there you go. See, so they were elected 2 years ago at caucus. We did elect 2 per precinct as we always do, but due to re-precincting, you have these strange scenarios where you have more than 2 in some precincts. So we just kind of live with that because on March 1st, this will all be resolved.
Right. You'll elect 2.
We'll
again.
go back to normal.
Right.
Yep.
So I should just forget about Van at this point, I think is
No,
what
no,
I'm
no, no,
hearing.
no, not at all. Not at all. Take care of your new precinct. That's yours until caucus day. And then, of course, if you're elected a PO again at caucus, then you'll continue to take care of your new precinct.
And for the next 10 years, because we won't go through that process.
Okay,
again.
but if my new precinct is in another house district, I wouldn't have access.
Well, then you're also in that house district.
Right, but I'd have to go through getting access. I mean, and I'm saying.
Oh
this
yeah,
for
Sandy. So yeah,
all of
we
us.
yes. Let me know. So this is what I'm asking everybody to do. Check your access in Van. If you are not mapped to the correct precinct, please send an email. So this is the best way to do this. And I'll type this in the chat here. Send an email to support@denverdemocrats.org. The reason I ask you to do that is that creates a support ticket for us. That way it doesn't fall between the cracks. Because if you verbally tell me now or ask me in the chat, I may forget. But if you send an email to that email address, we will be sure to follow up on that. So support@denverdemocrats.org. And I'll type that in the chat now.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, James. We're going to take 2 more questions. We have 2 more hands raised, so let's kind of get through this quickly. We will start with Mr. Hashim. Hey.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Quick question or 2 things. Is there a way that this link can just be sent out to everyone that signed up for this event, since some of us are outside of Denver County?
Absolutely.
But are still using this information, some of the information for our own counties?
Yes, I can definitely do that.
All right. And the second thing, in order to drive attendance, and I know it's kind of late, but it still might be able to be done. If a phone bank can be created in Van, and you have people that have some extra time can use their Van login to dial through the numbers that are in Van to encourage people to come out to caucus, that's a way of working around not having access to all the email addresses, because there's more phone numbers in Van than there are emails.
Right.
Okay. That's a great idea, Hashim. And
Gotcha.
yeah, you know what? I'll get hustling on that.
Got you, no problem. And just, all right, then all good. All right.
Okay, Jackie, make it quick. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, what I need to do is ask what support@denverdemocrats.org. What James wants us to send him is what? That's what I didn't realize.
If you go into Van and you don't have access to your own precinct,
okay,
because of re-precincting, let me know. I will get that fixed immediately.
Okay.
That's what I thought. We'll take Sharon next.
James, can you tell us how we can access your Van training from last week, please?
Yeah, Sharon, there is a video. I don't know if Adam is on here. I know he was earlier, but he did send out an email with that video link. Let me follow up on that, Sharon. I'll make sure that you get a copy of that.
And if need be, if I have to include that in the email with this training as well as the presentation, I'm totally happy to do that as well.
Maybe we just do that.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea. Okay, we'll take Kevin next.
Hi,
was curious if anyone knows if Denver city facilities like rec centers and libraries allow posting of flyers reminding folks about caucus date and location.
I imagine so. I think even Claudia had posted that she just knows some local businesses, but I would imagine that they have like boards where you can place lit and stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you. And then lastly, we'll take Jackie again. Hey, Jackie.
Hi, am I to understand that county assembly is virtual?
No. The statewide assembly will be virtual. Our assembly will be in person at South High School. Again, the time is still to be determined. Okay.
And to clarify that a little further, the Congressional District 1 Assembly, which most of us live in, will be virtual as well.
Yeah.
But the county assembly will be in person.
Okay, so I don't see any more hands raised. With that said, if you have any other questions, again, you can either reach myself at afelix@denverdemocrats.org, or even reach out to James at denverdemocrats.org. We would be happy to take your questions. I have a whole list here of things that I will try to include in that email. I will also save the chat to review to see if there's any questions that we missed, any information that I can include in the training that would be helpful. I will do what I can to get that information out as early as I can tomorrow. Like I want to have this out 9 a.m. So I'll do what I can to make sure that happens. I want to thank you all. This isn't easy work. We have a quite a strange election coming up. Things I think are more dangerous than ever, to be quite honest, and we all need to do our part to make sure that this is successful because the consequences are too big. I just want to give a shout out to the trans community in Texas, who is dealing with some incredibly vile laws being signed by Governor Abbott there. He is punishing children for being trans and punishing their families for allowing them to be who they are. Those are the types of consequences that happen when people don't participate in this process and do what we can to make sure that we win these elections. So just keep that in mind. The consequences are just way too big for any of us to bear. Again, I appreciate all of you being a part of this today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Adrian. This is great.
Whew. Not bad. An hour.
Now you got to play some exit music. You should have had a playlist.
Definitely. The link has been posted multiple times. Denver Young Dems, we love to do this kind of stuff for you. We do have some upcoming debates that we're hoping to push out quite soon, hopefully in April, May. Also, we have elections coming up at the day after caucus. If you're a person 36 and under and want to get involved, please reach out to me. We need your name on that ballot. We need to have a full board. So thank you guys so much. Lydia Guzman, turn Texas blue. I agree. I can't stand them red anymore.
Trust us, we can't either.
Yeah, Leah and Cassidy, who are two of our DYD board members, are from Texas. And so they're, I'm sure, living their best lives in Colorado with us. At least I hope. I don't think they're used to the snow yet.
It is super cold.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, it is super cold. Yeah. Hey, but at least our power grid is working. So
I was gonna say we haven't lost power yet, so we're heavily for it.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for being here. Jackie, is he governing a pro? You know, I don't know. It has to be something they're drinking at this point. It's like I don't know which way's up with Republicans and which way is down. You know, I think in this issue specifically, it kind of bugs me that they will claim that they're about individual freedom, but then take the rights away from trans people, that they will claim that they're for small government, but want a government that antagonizes these families. It's weird. It's to say that these are your values, but then do everything the opposite of that. And it's a very difficult thing, I think, to fight of, you know, who are these people and what do they stand for? And it's like they only stand for it when it's convenient for them at that moment. You know,
they're for freedom until they're not. They're for the Constitution until they're not. They're for all these things until they're not.
Yeah, it's tragic, isn't it? I know, but coming from Texas, y'all know that I was there 23 years growing up, and it was, or being raised, as I say, but it is very, very difficult for me